Naamah, the Shepherd Queen. The primary text says very little about the shipwright's wife. While we can infer a great deal, I decided to look into some secondary texts as well. In the Book of Jubilees from the 2nd century BC, she's named Emzara, which translates to Mother of Seed. Medieval texts call her Naamah, which means pleasant or lovely. And that's about all there is. For my purposes, this works just fine. It gives me a lot of room to work. I've already made some big speculative leaps for the shipwright. In the spirit of respectfully coloring in the lines, I can build off of those inferences. Let's start in the past, relative to when the story of dead gods takes place. The shipwright was once the Shepherd King, a noble and just leader of a small kingdom that thrived on a centuries-old industry of tending flocks. I gave him a leaner build here, as he spends a great deal of his time traversing his valley, and when he's not out in the pastures, he's dealing with local matters of defense, civil oversight, and trade. I've been sketching Naamah for a while now, trying to find a look that I liked. Using my favorite sketch, I wanted to draw a more definitive face for her. I like the longer face with the lower set nose and the slight smirk. I agonized over this drawing a bit, mirroring, correcting things. It's challenging when you don't have a specific goal in mind, when you're just trying to find something that clicks. There's a lot of push and pull. Once I had a face I liked, I brought it back to the body and started another round of adjustments. You'll notice she's quite tall. I wanted her to match the shipwright's stature, since they've been married for centuries. At this scale, she'd be half a foot shorter than her husband at 7 feet. As usual, once I had something down for the body, I flipped the canvas and critiqued my own drawing, just trying to find proportions that I think will work and make sure things feel like they had volume. I almost missed the Shepherd King's ridiculously long humerus bone. That would have been frustrating to have to fix later. I'm anticipating covering most of their figures, so I'm not getting too precious about things. Once I had some figures I could work with, I was on to costume. Clothing is a powerful storytelling tool. Ideally, I like to design clothing that rewards the observant Sherlock Holmes viewers. This requires asking a lot of questions. For example, what materials do they have access to? What are they trying to communicate on purpose? For the Shepherd King and Queen, I wanted their clothing to represent the best of their trade. These costumes represent who they both were before their entire lives were turned upside down. It's from a time when they thought they knew what the future held in store. Centuries of leading this kingdom and raising up sons worthy of carrying on that responsibility. The king wears a finely woven cotton tunic. It's worn loosely to stay cool. It's meant to feel more relaxed. Duty often calls him into battle to defend his valley, but this is what he'd wear day to day. Under his tunic, he's girded his loins, tying up his robes to allow for better leg movement. I wanted him to look more practical than ceremonial, a man of action. He's wearing 4 century bracelets, marking him as over 400 years old. His beard and hair are still dark at this point. I imagine it started to go gray more dramatically around the time he became the shipwright. To signify his position as king, he wears a humble circlet, a symbol of authority that remains humble. A good leader serves his people best by leading well. He doesn't have to wear anything flashy because his people respect him. I wanted the shepherd cloak to be an old standby. As mentioned in the first video about him, it's clasped with covered pins that bear the symbol of his faith, a heel crushing a serpent's head as the serpent bruises the heel. The Shepherd Queen wears a matching humble circlet. She wears a cloak of sheepskin, or the antediluvian equivalent of sheep anyway. They both wear finely woven clothing, the best their kingdom has to offer. They wear it proudly, as it demonstrates the incredible skill of their people. On her wrist, she also wears 4 century bracelets. This puts them at least within 100 years of each other, age-wise. I realized that her necklace would be the perfect place for a matching heel and serpent emblem. Now, for the inking stage. At this point, I just get more specific about all the details I had in mind during the pencil stage. While we let the inking stage play out, a couple things. I have a new Patreon. If you'd subscribed before and you'd still like to support me, please consider resubscribing. If you hadn't joined before but you're thinking about supporting my project on Patreon, we have a few tiers to choose from. Sabretooth and Dragon get access to a private Discord server where people are sharing their own projects. It's small, but we'll see where it goes. Dragon tier patrons also get to vote on certain aspects of this project, and they get the names in the videos. In fact, these are the current Dragon patrons. I also have a website. It's just mattrhodesart.com, link below, where you can find other projects of mine, books, prints, and the assorted socials where you can follow me to get updates. With the inking done, I wanted to touch on color, because it's going to be doing some heavy lifting when it comes to storytelling. The Shepherd King's materials are mostly undyed fabric. I want him to feel grounded, authentic. He appreciates the simplicity of the fruits of his flock. The red has a particular meaning. While the primary text is sparse on details about these two, when it comes to Naamah, we can infer that she was incredibly supportive. Her husband set to work on a project that most people thought was mad, but she was right there with him. Later on in the text, Proverbs 31 describes the virtuous wife. It says that her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her. Keeping the queen of a shepherding kingdom in mind, it goes on to say, she seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. And I particularly like, she is not afraid of snow, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. I thought that last verse was particularly beautiful, so I did some digging. Scarlet refers to scarlet-dyed wool. During the dyeing process, it's often dipped twice or more, so some commenters think that there's a double meaning here, that not only is her household protected against the cold, but they're doubly protected, like she's gone above and beyond. Proverbs 31 is really beautiful, and it's not very long. I highly suggest reading the whole thing on your own. To reference the wife of virtuous character, I had most of the queen's clothing dyed with scarlet. She's also made sure that the king's clothing is embellished with it. It's a good reminder of her while he's away from the stronghold. Later on, I'd like to design some of the various people from their kingdom, and this will be a color through line. Now on to the current version of these characters. To start with, I wanted to give the shipwright his muscles back. His current build reflects a century of hard shipbuilding labor, cutting down trees, transporting wood, shaping lumber, assembling it, and that's just for the wood. There are dozens of other back-breaking tasks that have been occupying him for decades. At this point, I simply redrew his original outfit. There may come a point where I come back to adjust this design, but I will say that it was encouraging to come back to it and realize there wasn't anything that I felt like changing. I'm not a fan of just spinning the aesthetic wheel again and again in the hopes of finding something cool. The designs that I tend to gravitate towards out in the wild are the ones that are a byproduct of the story, the immutable designs that couldn't look any other way. When you design intentionally, with each piece supporting the story, you'll find that you spin your iteration wheels less, and your designs tend to have a better chance of standing the test of time. Given that I couldn't think of anything to modify here, I'm feeling even more confident about it. Naamah has elegantly navigated the many challenges and bumps along the road. She was the queen of a great house. In the early stages, most of their subjects respected them enough to help with their incomprehensible new project. As time wore on, more and more started to doubt the king's sanity. Many more began to fear for their own future if they stayed. Everyone was invited, but once the last of the assets had been sold off and the gold ran out, so did the people. Silence fell over the once bustling village, and their formerly lively house began to echo. But Naamah is busier than ever. Planting and harvesting crops, preserving food, gathering seeds, making cordage, weaving, mending, tending to the ever-increasing menagerie of animals that have begun to arrive. With her centuries of experience as the queen of a kingdom of shepherds, she's proficient at them all. It's just that normally a small army of servants would be helping. Now it's just her and her 3 daughters-in-law. Now another note about color and storytelling. I don't think I mentioned this in the first Shipwright video, so I wanted to say something about it here. The Shipwright's blue clothing was chosen very purposefully. His mission is to save what life he can from the impending cataclysm. He wears the colors of dark waters because he is the harbinger of the flood. Naamah is with him. She believes in his mission, and so she wears the same foreboding blue. But she still wears scarlet. Their household may have left them, but she carries home with her. It's a symbol that says, if no one else will come, I'll help to save our family. So there we have it, the noble king and queen of a remote shepherding kingdom, and the faithful husband and wife who will defy the world to survive the end of it. You can help this project. Click the buttons, leave a comment, go to my website, buy a book or a print, follow me on stuff, sign up on Patreon. Thank you all so much for the support you've already shown. It's been overwhelming.